a master's degree in English, in English as a foreign language. Adding to her professional path, she was part of an exchange program between Universidad de Cuenca and St. Andrews University in North Carolina. Currently, she's studying a doctorate program in higher education at Universidad de Palermo, Argentina, which is strengthening her academic background. With over 14 years of teaching experience, she has taught students from primary, secondary, and higher education levels. In addition, she has also worked as the head of the English area at a high school. Her professional career is characterized by her compromise with the professional development of English language teachers and research on ELT. So let's give her a warm welcome and let's listen to what she has to tell us today.
Thank you so much, Heidi and Carlos, for the invite, and thank you everyone for being here today. I know that despite of all your activities and things to do as English teachers, you're giving yourself the time to be here. And for that, I honor you and I respect you a lot. Um, Welcome again. My name is Karina. As they said, I work at UNAI, and I would like to share just a little bit of what have been 2 years of a research project that has concluded now with some publications, but more than that, with beautiful experiences. Okay, so let me see if I can share my screen with you. All right, and so that we can get started. All right. Katie, maybe can you confirm if everything is okay?
Yes, we can see the
I
slide.
see. I see your faces. So thank you again. So this is the lesson study strategy as a source to enhance the EFL classrooms. So again, thank you to the TESOL, Yachai, and UNAE. We're here to share a little bit about this, okay? So I wouldn't like to be left alone in the presentation. So I will be asking you some things. If you can reply to the chat. But if not, please go over your mind, go answering some of the questions so that you can learn a little bit of what is lesson study. All right. So the first thing that I would like to start with is a quote. This is a quote that I listened the first time when I was studying at the university as well. And something caught my attention because it says like, he who dares to teach must never cease to learn. And if you're here today, right now, it means that you are in this constant growth, that you're looking for more information, that you're leaving aside your misconceptions, and that you're willing to do something extra in your classes. So thank you for that. So keep that quote in mind because that's going to be like a reference for all of us. Okay? Fantastic. Amazing. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to go over 4 points. One of them is the core principles of lesson study, how lesson study promotes actually teachers' collaboration and growth within school, high schools, and any field, the impact of lesson study on your students' perceptions as well, and their engagement in the lesson and some practical strategies on how to implement lesson and study in your context because I am pretty sure that we all come from different zones, from different contexts. And maybe right now you're asking me like, how is are we going to apply lesson study? Well, that is something that we want to talk today. All right. So welcome again. And with that in mind, I would like you to have a detox, a brain detox on everything that you're having right now, that all the things that you have gone through. And I will ask you if you could delete something from the education system, from your schools right now, from your teaching classes, what would you delete? Okay. Think about it. If you have a chance to reply in the chat, please go with me. What would you delete? Anything, okay? So we have to dream big today so that we can leave those misconceptions, okay? Amazing. You know, some of my teachers have said, well, I will definitely delete all the paperwork that I have to do in school. And then you were complaining because you have so many students in your classrooms. You can complain as well because you are the only teacher in your school and you don't have anybody to share with. And that is fantastic. And that is a very good point to detox right now, to delete this information from your brain. And why am I asking you so? Because lesson study needs a space in your brain so that it can be adapted in a context or in a situation that you have never experienced before. Okay. So my first request today will be come to this lesson, to this webinar, without any information or previous complaints that you have in your minds. Okay, so we're having a brain detox and we're going to connect to the high spirit that English teachers usually have. All right, fantastic. So, question: when you listen, lesson study, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? So, how could you define lesson study? Okay, go thinking. Probably right now you're saying, maybe this is a sort of lesson plan. Okay. Maybe these are strategies to teach in the lesson, or here we're going to learn games or so forth. Well, lesson study is a lot more. So, lesson study in depth is a whole strategy that we're going to use in our lessons. Okay. So, what is this? First of all, it is a structured professional development approach where teachers plan collaboratively. Okay. Here, teachers go observe, analyze, and then you tune your lessons. You refine your lessons. Yeah, so thank you for your responses. Improvement, analyzing a class, planning. Indeed, it is a little bit of everything but more. So from lesson study, you have to go beyond from the planning stage to an observation stage, executing the plan, going back, having feedback, and then fix the possible problems that were happening in that particular lesson. When lesson study first appeared, it appeared in Japan, and they were using this for math classes. So imagine this flexibility of this strategy. It can be used in any field and in any context, as long as teachers are ready to reflect on their teaching practice. The main purpose of lesson study is to enhance the teaching's quality. So you want to improve the quality of your teaching whenever you are teaching something for the first time. For lesson study, we require lots of collaboration, a lot of research, like observing, but observing carefully, which means not judging, reflecting, and then fixing possible errors. Okay, so this is in general the definition of lesson study, and now we're going to go in depth to all of these circumstances. Okay. Fantastic. This is my first strategy, and this is called the admin ticket. You use it in your classes and with your students when you want to know previous information about them. Okay, so we're going to do a digital admin ticket with you today. And I'm going to ask you two questions. Yeah. I saw that you can reply in the chat. So amazing. This is how we're going to do it. Yeah. First question: how do you feel when you teach your class? Okay. So choose in one word. How do you feel when you teach your class? Please go to the chat and then give me your word. Okay. Think about it. Something that brings in your heart, in your mind, the first thing that appear. How do you teach when, how do you feel when you teach your classes? Okay. Okay, here I have my responses. Comfortable, perfect, excited, glad, very good. If you're like me, whenever you go to class, you forget about all your possible problems. So amazing, passionate, happy, Thank you so much. Thank you, Jasmine, Mercedes, Mauricio. Positive. That is amazing. That is really good. That is something that we should all feel whenever we go to our lessons. We feel involved. Okay, that's really good. So all positive words. Fantastic. So now it comes our second question. So how do you feel when somebody goes to your class to observe your lesson? Okay, so first word that comes to your mind, how do you feel when somebody goes to your class and it's observing you? Okay, judge, okay, pressure, of course, we feel the pressure of somebody that maybe knows or not more than us, nervous, and comfortable, a bit nervous, fantastic. And all of them are reasonable feelings. And I feel the same. I usually feel nervous when somebody is there because we have this impression, this feeling that they are going to judge everything that we're going to do. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much for your responses. Well, this is actually what lesson study wants to avoid. Okay. So we have to eliminate this pressure, this feeling, going with a lesson study cycle. Okay? How do we do so? Right? Usually you do this together, or when you do this together with a group of friends, with a team, in your institution or outside your institution, it doesn't matter. Our language or ability is so flexible, and as long as we create a network, we are able to prepare something. So this is we study. So we got together and we decide on a topic. What do you want to teach today? So right now, maybe you're teaching simple present, present progressive, vocab, professions, many things that you're going around in class. You sit together and plan a particular lesson. It doesn't matter if the teachers do not belong to your same level. Okay. So they can be from school, high school. Anyways, you do know the language. You can control this. Then, once you plan this lesson, one person in this group offers themselves to teach. You go there and teach this lesson. The people that plan with you will accompany you to the lesson to verify how the strategy is applied, but not to judge the teacher, okay? Not to judge the teacher. And then once this teaching process is over, you sit again together and you talk about what happened in the lesson, how the students responded, and how a particularly strategy was done, and if it was effective or not. Then you cover the cycle of lesson start. The goal in here is that all the people that help you plan the lesson, then they will teach next time. And the cycle repeats and repeats. Okay? Fantastic. Let me see. Um, yeah, we're gonna share the recording, I guess. So that's my Heidi will help me doing so. So all right. So see, this is why I was telling you you have to do a detox of everything you were carrying in your brain so that these feelings of nervousness, of feeling uncomfortable when somebody is there in your lesson can be deleted. And with that, we apply this lesson study strategy with everybody. So our first point in here is that we all know the same and we are the same, that we can learn from each other. Sharing is key in this strategy. Okay, we have to share everything we know and all the possible ideas that we have done before and the new things that we can apply in our lesson so that we can create a learning community. Okay, perfect. Until here, how do you feel? So now you know the lesson study means somebody will come to your lesson and then see what is going on. So feelings, I want to know how do you feel with this idea of having somebody in your class? Okay, very good. So probably you're hesitant on what is going to happen, but here is the thing. Don't panic, okay? You don't have to panic. So again, particularly is about lesson study, and something that makes us like think carefully is how is that we're going to plan a lesson together? If that is so, how is that I'm going to observe? What do I observe and how do I observe? That is particularly important. Once the lesson is over, am I ready to receive feedback? And also, am I ready to give feedback to the others participant? And when everything is over, you have to reflect on your practice and what is going on. Okay, so what is happening in there? So with everything on mind, with all this information in mind, what do you think will be some of the problems, some of the challenges that we will face in your real context, in your school, with your colleagues, within your lessons, your time, your number of students? Can you write that in the chat? What would be possible challenges that you can see in this strategy? Okay, let's go to the chat again. Right? Think about it. So, what can go wrong? Because that is usually the first thing that comes to our mind. Maybe this is not going to work. Well, yes, finding other teachers who want to participate, and indeed, Heidi, this is super relevant. Time, okay, time and time management as well. Perfect. Well, if you're worried about time management, that is something that we can fix through lesson study. The rejection to change, that is absolutely right. So other people that are willing to participate, and then rejection to change. People constantly don't like to do different things. And here we have to be super careful on the ego of the teacher, because we got to a point in which we believe that we know everything, that we are under control of everything. And for this reason, we don't like to share anything. Okay. And that is true. Sometimes some teachers do not like to share their knowledge. Okay, so that is correct. And whenever we have done this study or research project, we have seen similarities of what you're observing. So that's what I started saying. If you're here, you're the kind of teachers, the kind of people that are willing to open your brain to something that is different, okay? To, be open-minded under different processes. But you are totally right. In our study as well, we found some challenges. The first thing that we found is that teachers have a very hard time during this reflection time. So what do I mean? They have difficulties recognizing areas of improvement. And whenever they get together, they are like, no, everything was perfect in your lesson. No, yeah, everything was correct. And that is actually a deficiency. So if we cannot recognize what is going wrong in terms of the skill of the lesson, how can we probably improve? So, if you haven't done this observation or peer observation with teachers before, go thinking on yourself. Do you constantly ask yourself after you finish the lesson what went well and what went like, okay, I'm perfect? And that is something that you want to repeat, okay? Indeed, that is one of the challenges. Another one was a challenge to have a proper peer feedback or honest feedback. Okay. Sometimes we don't find the words, and we don't find, the strength to tell other teachers, this is something that we have to improve. This is something that it will be nice if we change. Students weren't reacting that well, so we want to change something in there. So giving feedback is a challenge. But if we are not honest with ourselves, starting with our own reflection, then how can we be honest with other professors, with other teachers? Okay. Another problem that we might face is rigid institutional teaching structures. Sometimes our own institutions wouldn't allow us to implement innovation strategies or other techniques. Okay, so that is something that our English community has to start breaking, that at least when we teach in Pine, we're like, you have to go there, share your information. And even if teachers reject you from the very beginning, do not ever get tired of asking them like to share or to do something new. Okay. Another particular problem that we saw was issues in collaborative planning. So we struggled to follow the lesson plan. So, teachers were like super happy there getting together, planning the lesson together. They offer ideas, they offer techniques, but at the moment of presenting the lesson, the teacher changed everything in a very last minute. As a consequence, there is no plan to follow. So, and that is something that happens normally to all of us. And all of this brings a disconnection within the theory and the practice. Okay. So I agree. There are many challenges that are going to happen in the lesson study process, but still they are challenges. They are not impossible to be solved. Okay. So understanding all these points, then we have to come to the core principles of lesson study. Why is it important to plan together and to do this collaboratively? We have to start forgetting or like having this misconception that if you share the information in your institution, then it's a loss for you, because then probably other teachers are going to know more. That is something that we have to completely delete from our brain. Okay. So sharing is powerful. And if you don't know something, asking for information is key in this teaching and learning process. Okay. When we start with this lesson study strategy, then we realize that we are in a continuous professional learning. Okay. You reach a point in which you say yourself like, maybe I don't know everything, and maybe there is something extra to know from other profs, and I'm going to ask. So whenever you have this feeling that other people might know more than you, and that is okay, because you have to be together with people that can teach you something extra, then that is your first chance to grow. All right. And part of this, because we are in this continuous professional learning process, and then we feel different whenever we are teaching the lesson, and we start reflecting a lot more in ourselves, asking like, okay, so there is something extra that I can do, and our main focus is the student, then everything changes in the strategy. Okay. Everything is an asset. So because we are teachers and our main goal is to make teaching happen. So, but you have to remember, teaching is not the same thing as learning. So even though sometimes you plan beautiful lessons and you go there and that's it, that is not enough. We have to make sure that our students are actually learning and that they are following everything that we are doing in the lesson. Okay. So, and in order to do so, reflection is super important for all of us. All right. So, these are like core principles, and I want you to keep them on mind. Yeah. So, question again, where to start? Where do I get started? Okay. So, again, go to the chat box and you're going to name the steps that you will possibly follow to start applying lesson study in your class. Okay. Thinking on your context. What would you do first? All right. I know that the people in here are leaders. If you're here, you're willing to do changes. that you're the person that is constantly asking others to go to a course to improve yourselves. So go to the chat box and name randomly whatever comes to your mind. What would you do? What would you do first to start applying lesson study in your classrooms? All right? Think about it. Give yourself a minute. And there we go. Beautiful. Thank you, Mercedes. First, you have to talk to other teachers about it, okay? Beautiful. And if you have more teachers in your institution, we already won. That is beautiful. Okay, doing some research about the topic and share with colleagues. Beautiful. Yeah. Show videos, flashcards, short stories, musics. Thank you, Martita. Very nice. Make a group of study. Lovely. Beautiful. Second stage. Now we're going to create a group. And that is amazing. Form a collaborative team. Okay? I have to tell you that when we started a lesson study, our teachers, all of them belong to different institutions. Okay, we're going to ask questions, research about the topic, making round tables, brainstorming with the students. That's amazing. Review some knowledge. Okay, so what do we have in our minds that we can bring to the table? Meet for planning how to apply it. Beautiful, fantastic. You have the idea super, super clear. And if you have other teachers in your institution, then it's your power to convince others to start applying something different. As I said, lesson study can be applied in any educational field, but since usually the English teachers are like the different ones, we can start promoting this change within ourselves. When we first, ask other teachers if you can have a team, if you can have a collaborative team, and then observe each other's, you will see first their faces are like, "Uy, but how are we gonna do it? Maybe we don't have the time. We have to ask for permission. Maybe parents do not allow us to do so, and so forth and so forth." That is something that we have to jump over, because definitely we will find some people being reluctant. So you, with your beautiful attitude, with your words, with your power of persuasion, you have to tell them, look, I don't know anything about this strategy as well. So we are going to learn together in this path. Okay? Okay, good. Peer schedules for observation. Fantastic. And I don't know if I have here area coordinators. If I have so, this is an amazing start for you. Usually, when we are in our schools, in school and high school, we forget that we have the most powerful resource there in the school, which is our friends' knowledge. We have their main resource in there and we don't usually use it. So what is going to be or we doing lesson study is changing the mindset. At UNAE, and particularly with my colleagues, every time we finish the semester, we share in workshops, in mini workshops, strategies that we have applied, things that have gone well in our classrooms and that we enjoy a lot, things that we research and now we want to apply it, but we share with each other because knowledge is to be shared. If you are super knowledgeable, if you're so intelligent, but you just keep it for yourself, then you're not really helping out the world. Okay, and we have to start doing the different things. Okay, we are here to transform education, and that should be our main goal. Okay, Beautiful, Mercedes. Fantastic. You are in the cycle of lesson study. Beautiful. Absolutely. And with that, we consider our students' needs. And at the end, you know, lesson study is just to improve our students' performance and is to teach them in a better way, the way that they need. Okay, not constantly the way that we know, but the way that our students need to learn. Beautiful. So now that you know, here I'm going to be sharing some of the techniques, some of the steps that we follow in order to apply our lesson. Okay. Yes, that is true. We have to consider our students' learning preferences, and we do this, in a full lesson study process. Well, this is idea number one. Yeah, when we start lesson study for the very first time in our institutions, and our friends are not really used to observe each other or to be observed, then it's amazing that we can start this team setting some rules that probably you can create yourselves and rules that can be just yours. Okay. So the first thing in your institution, you're going to talk to your teachers. Profe, Cari, what do you think if we start doing so? And then you're like, okay, maybe it might work. Once you have your group together, you can sit together and then at least gossip about what is going on in your classes, because that is normally something that we do during the break time in our school or high school. You know what happened today in my class? This happened, and this student was like this. So you already do so. But now we're going to take this conversation to a more powerful way, okay? So the first thing, agree with a team. Agree to collaborate with somebody, okay? And then you said, perfect. Now that we're going to do so, we are going to establish some rules. It is very important that all members are treated equally. As I said, so you're going to be my ambassadors, in leading lesson study in your school. So first speech, I don't know anything about this strategy, but I want to learn together. Okay. I want to learn with you. So if we form these teams, I have to let you know that your ideas will be respected and that you will be treated with respect. Remember, the lesson study is not about judging the teacher. Observing is totally something different. Okay. Observing is, okay, my students were reacting really good. So now how can I enhance this? What other strategy can I implement to make this better? Okay. Another rule for us will be how we can provide support to each other. We are going to help our teachers when we need. Okay. And with this is another thing that we do at UNAE, that we do on Pine. We share all our material. When we plan our lessons, when we apply something, we share with each other, and we create in our OneDrives, in our SharePoint, a learning community. Sometimes you develop beautiful worksheets, beautiful quizzes, but they are just for you. Again, knowledge is out there to be shared. All right. So we are constantly helping and supporting each other. If you see that yourself, you have a weakness where this is the chance in which your colleagues will help you to overcome this issue. Okay. Good. All of the members should decide on the tools to be used. The purpose of actually doing lesson planning is not to impose your knowledge. Okay. So it's not that you will go to the group and say, like, this is what we're going to do, and we are going to do it in this way. Because if you do so, you will completely break the sense of lesson study. Okay. In order to apply all the strategies that you were mentioning in here, because you were saying maybe songs, maybe visuals, maybe positive feedback, or any of these things, all of them have to be agreed all together. You will be discuss that with your friends, okay? Important, we are going to listen to each other. That is first step. But second step, you have to make suggestions. So we have come to a period of our life in which we cannot be quiet, that we have to make suggestions with respect, with love. Darling, maybe this is not going to work because of this, and the other. you know, Lesson study starts making a change in our brains, because then whenever we are giving a suggestion, we are not just imposing an idea. We have to be able to give arguments. This is not going to work because of this, or this will work perfectly because of this, and the other. Yeah. Then we share our learning with our colleagues, as well as materials, as well as quizzes, everything. We share everything. And then you are super right. You kind of take into account students' opinions, and if not opinions yet, their faces, their attitudes, their behaviors. So we are going to start noticing in a first class what were their reactions. I saw in your comments that probably classroom management will be a problem. Okay, so if we have classroom management problems, um, what is behind this? Okay, you have to think, is this a cognitive problem? Is this a behavioral problem? What is this? So think on the approach that is behind. And then from that perspective, from that point of view, you will go and start changing the lesson. Sometimes we have classroom management because our students really don't listen. So what can we implement if we want to improve our students' listening skills in the class? I know some of you have the answers. My students the other day were like, okay, teacher, we're going to do behaviorism. Fantastic, we're going to do behaviorism, but you have to be careful with behaviorism. And then I asked, what would you apply? So I would punish all my students that are actually moving or talking, but there is another side on behaviorism that is not punishment, but rewarding. So at the end of the day, you have to brainwash your students. You are the one that can lead the situation in a different way. Behavior is really good, but if you constantly punish your students or go asking them no, you have to be quiet, then they will suddenly lose respect towards your teaching. Okay. Towards on the other side, if you treat them with rewards and make them focus in their strengths, your classroom management will also operate. Okay. Amazing. So that is rule number one. Rules. Good. In stage number two, very important in lesson study, is to establish some roles and to establish some dates as well. Okay. Can you write in your chat box how many English teachers do you have in your institution? Okay. Four, nine, around 40. Well, that's fantastic. 16, 60, 23. Is this only English teachers? How many English teachers do you have in your institution? Okay. Only English teachers. 8. Fantastic. 21. That is an incredible number. Wow. 60 English teachers. You have more than Unai there. Beautiful. Perfect. So our first excuse is that we do have a team. We have a group of people that we can talk to and that we can cooperate with each other. Fantastic. So once we have the team, then perfect. We're going to establish some roles. Yeah. You can decide who do you want to apply lesson study with. Maybe just teachers from the level, only bachillerato, only básica media, whatever you are, then you can start. Then, so with your initiative, you can say, perfect, I'm going to be the one planning the meetings. Okay. If you're really good in logistics, then you're going to be there, the one supporting. You could have a timekeeper. Fantastic. We don't have like that much time to plan a lesson, so we have to be efficient. So it's not only enough to work hard, but to work efficiently and make use of the time that we usually don't have in our institutions. A note taker. This person is going to be the one actually writing the lesson down. Okay. So whatever lesson plan format that you are applying right now in your institutions, then use it. Okay. You're going to be taking the notes. Facilitators. So usually the one that is researcher, that is asking for information, that is suggesting, giving ideas, asking for more. So the stage of planning has to be a stage in which we talk a lot, we reflect a lot, and we solve problems that are prior to going to the lesson. Okay, with this information here, we have our lesson plan number 1. Yeah, let's say you're in a group of 4 people. So, from this group of people, if you are the first facilitator, the first that suggested the idea, I will suggest as well that you could be the person that teaches first. Okay? So, ask your colleagues to come to your class to observe you. Okay? You planned the lesson together. This is not a lesson plan that is done just by one profe. This is a lesson plan that is developed by a group of teachers, and a lot of heads think better. So you plan everything in detail together, and then you offer yourself and you say, look, I'm going to teach this lesson. All right. And then the other profs will go to your class and observe your classes. Now, another possible problem that you will say, no, 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 Kari, we don't have permission in an institution to miss classes, or schedules don't match, or we won't have the chance to actually develop the lesson. Then you can record yourself. That is something that you can ask your area coordinators or your institutions. Again, telling them, persuading them that you will just record the lesson for research purposes and that you won't share this video with anybody else but your colleagues. Okay? So if teachers cannot be there, which is the ideal, then you can record the lesson. Then you can sit together, watch the class, take notes again, and be ready to do a post discussion. Okay, perfect. Let me see. Yeah, beautiful. So I am really, really expecting you that you can be the one, that you can be those teachers that actually promote this change, okay, that encourage you to take the risk. English teachers are usually risk takers. We are willing to do everything. And I know because some of my students are here and they are like in everything. And I am very happy for that. Sometimes in things that they don't even know, but they are there willing to do the change. And Heidi is one of my students like that. So I'm part of this research project as well. Good. Fantastic. So now you have your team. Now you have done these persuasion conversations with all your profs. You have assigned each other a role. You have developed a schedule. The schedule is really important because it is not okay if only one person teaches the lesson and then you forget about it. That is just like the first stage of lesson study. Lesson study promotes reflection. So what happened during the lesson? So with that, we set some goals. Yeah. So once you are there planning the lesson, you have to think yourself, what do I want my students to know more? You have to examine previous ideas, previous problems, decide if the goal that you want to achieve with your students is a long-term or a short-term goal, okay? You have to build yourself a timeline. Because sometimes we say like, okay, I want to teach present perfect to my students, right? And you want to do it in just one lesson. And you go there, teach the grammar, and goodbye. If they know how to apply it, then that's not my responsibility. And that is one of the problems that we have in schools and high schools. We want to go over the topics, but we are not sure if our students are able to apply those topics in real life. Okay. So setting goals, it's very important from you. And, I included this image because thinking outside of the box and leaving that cage that sometimes we build in ourselves, that is key factor. And another thing that I want to mention here is that if at this point of your life, because of time, because you have like lots of paperwork to do, you are just basing your teaching in the book, then I want you to question yourself, what is in there that I am adding so my students can learn better? Okay. So sometimes we have come to a point in which just go to the book and follow the lesson. We just follow the pages. And that is not really the goal of lesson study or teaching in general. Okay. And even though if you are requested to follow a book, then don't make this scenario only about the book, but to plan a real lesson. Okay, to plan something with a specific goal. You should always go to your classes with an objective, something that you want to follow and something that you want your students to accomplish. Okay, whether they are short or long term goals. All right, fantastic. Good. So here is in this three and number three stage, some ideas, some questions that you can go asking yourself to see if we're doing our job like properly or not. Yeah, it could be, what is the gap between my ideal situation and the current situation that you would like to work on? Okay, because sometimes, and me, I am a big dreamer and an idealistic person. And I believe that everything is possible in education. So we have to start balancing, okay, what do I have? And what is my ideal situation? Something that you want to achieve. Okay. Then think about the students you teach, their qualities, their skills. Okay. The things that they already know and the things that you want them to know. Okay. So what qualities do they have now? And what qualities do you like them to improve? So think on these guiding guidelines. Let's be redundant so that you can set a very nice and appropriate goal. All right, perfect. Remember that in this planning stage, we are doing this together. We are doing this with a team. Yeah, good. Perfect. Let's come to the lesson planning. Okay. What you should include in your lesson planning. Okay, let me go back before you actually read everything. So go to the chat box again. So tell me all the things that you normally include in your lesson planning, things that you consider. Okay, go to the chat box again. All right. The lead in. Beautiful. Thank you, Maria Gusta. Un warm-up activity, of course. Yeah, our students need warm-ups. Okay. What else? What do you include? What are the stages? Assessment and resources. Fantastic. Beautiful. You have a control practice. And if you have a control practice, you also have perfect, a free practice. Activities and poses and so forth. Freer. That's it. Freer practice activities. Amazing. You consider timing as well. That is fantastic. Topic objective. Beautiful, beautiful. We are in. See, you're so smart. You got this. You got this. How to practice and how to produce. Closing and wrap up. Feedback, Kathy, this is amazing. Yes, our students need feedback. Perfect. We have some aims and materials. That is it. Good. With this, you can have a powerful, rich lesson plan. Beautiful. And then you go asking yourself, good, what do I want my students to know? Perfect. What do I want them to do? So, perfect. You have to decide as well what curriculum area do you want to focus on? Whether this is grammar, this is vocab, this is skills, you can focus in one thing. This might depend on your schedules actually. How much time do you have in your institutions to develop a lesson? Okay, so because it's not the same planning for a 2 hour class than for a 40 minutes class. That is normally reality in schools and high schools. Okay, so you have to be efficient, and there, less is more. Focus in something in a specific. What is the goal? What is the main objective that you want your students to have at the end of it? Okay, then you follow your structure, you follow the format, and as I can see, you're really good in planning lesson. Beautiful. Objective. You can never go to a class without having an objective. Perfect. Here is an extra because this is part of lesson study. You have to decide on how to collect data, how to actually have some tools to collect data. Okay, why? Because sometimes you do beautiful things in schools and high schools or universities, and then you forget about data collection and you don't publish your own papers, your experiences, your books. I am pretty sure you're super knowledgeable people, can show the world everything that we are doing in class. That is something also that we're going to plan. Good. You review main decisions, main points, key points, everything in the lesson has to have a plan. And then you agree upon assignments. Okay, assessment and assignments. Beautiful. You have a sequence, you have students' anticipations thinking, and you have assessment. So perfect. We are ready to go over our lesson. Another guiding questions so that it can help. What do students currently understand about this topic? Okay, so this you are talking to your colleagues. What do we want them to understand at the end of the lesson? Okay. What's the sequence of experiences, of activities that will propel students towards their learning objective? Okay, if they are in a sequence manner, okay, what is that going to be so that they reach their maximum potential? What will make the unit sequence of lessons of each individual to motivate and be meaningful to our students? Okay. You can decide to apply it only in one lesson, not a whole unit, because this is a class. Again, this depends on the reality of your institution. How much time do you have to develop? Okay. What do students need to know before this lesson? So you anticipate some knowledge from top down, or bottom up strategies. This is when we're teaching skills. And what will they learn during the lesson? Okay, so if you're constantly asking yourself what is happening in my classes, then you can have an idea of what is going on. Yeah, fantastic. Until here, we good? Yeah, amazing. Okay, this happened at UNAE. Okay, we decided that for this research project, we opened a call. This was a free workshop that we developed in UNAE, leading, by Pine teachers and Pine students. And we divided this lesson study into 4 workshops. So the first part was actually knowing what is lesson study and get familiar with the strategy itself. Okay, so we were like starting to discuss and learn from each other. We did this in order to prove that lesson study can be feasible even though you don't have that many teachers in your high school. All of them belong from different places, from different schools, and from different levels. Okay? Through the path of this workshop, we taught our colleagues how to observe, and how to give feedback. Okay, and how to give feedback, because that is also a super powerful thing. Okay. And finally, they were applying lesson study in their institutions. Again, since they were from different places, they recorded themselves, they uploaded the video to, a Padlet community that we had. They saw the lesson, they reflected on this process, and then when they came back, well, they were discussing, oh, this happened, we should improve this and the other. What about this? They have to retune the lesson. So, part of the lesson study is that the second teacher, another profe, has to be able to apply the same lesson plan. Sometimes this might not be possible in our institutions because we have to advance, but sometimes it is possible. This is the ideal of lesson study, that the second teacher, another teacher in this group, can reteach the same lesson with everything that you corrected in your team, okay? And that you can stick on your lesson carefully. Yeah? Perfect. When the talking is done, we are ready to execute the lesson in the classroom. Yeah. In order to reach this point, you have done a very rich discussion with your colleagues. You have agreed on everything that you're going to implement in the lesson, including the assessment, including worksheets, materials, and so forth. Okay. And because you are going to be this one, you will execute the lesson. My recommendation in here is if you have the chance to invite your colleagues, you have to allocate them in a place in which they can kind of be invisible for the class. Okay? If you like to do this lesson in a special classroom, and if you're willing and you have the chances to actually move in UNAI, we have a special classroom in the CORI, in the research office, so that you can have your students there and observe the lesson from like an invisible mirror. This will help you to actually have good data. Okay, so to observe a real context. Okay, if not, invite your teachers to the lesson so that you can execute. Fantastic. Perfect. Now, the other profs, the profs that are going to observe. Okay, if you grasp the idea of what lesson study intention is, what will you observe? Go again to the chat box. What will you observe? You are there. You are there in the lesson of your partner. So what is going to be your focus? Okay. Amazing. Go to the chat box again and think carefully. Okay. Posture, clear instructions, classroom management, correct? How students react to the strategies, materials. Oh, the use of the target language. Okay. Teaching techniques. That is right. Fantastic. The interaction. Beautiful, beautiful. TTT. Perfect. Strategies. Thank you. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Jocelyn. Students' engagement. Perfect. Okay. How we anticipate for coming problems, okay, or things that might be going wrong in the lesson. Again, you have to think. Lesson study is not about observing the teacher itself, So we are not there to judge the profe. We are not there to judge the teacher. We are there to observe what is happening in the development of the lesson. All right. So if that is so, from this list, we are going to pick some things. Students' participation, indeed. Perfect. We can see how the students reacted to a material? Yes, we can do so. Okay. We can see a student's interaction. Like, for example, if one of your students was like asking you lots of questions, and then you ask in the middle of the class, okay, no, but you have to stay quiet. Then that kind of teacher-student interaction you can observe. Fantastic. The student's engagement in general, that is so. If you're applying a particular strategy, let's say a speed dating, a carousel, so you want to know how the skill, how the strategy was being developed and what happened during the implementation of that strategy. Okay, the materials and the level and the topic, that is something that is already talked previously when you are in the planning stage. Because remember, you were planning this lesson all together with your friends. You're not doing this alone, and decisions are taken as a group, okay? Having teachers talking time is also something that can be reduced depending on how you plan the lesson, okay? If you plan the activities in such a way that teacher will not have that much TTT, then this is possible to be corrected. Yes, but indeed we focus in the techniques and how our students participating actively in the lesson. With this perception, we avoid the judgments of the teachers. Okay, we are not there to see if the teacher pronounces correctly or if the target language was used correctly. Well, that is something that we hope that is happening. And if that is the case, and if you feel that the teacher needs to improve in that, well, that is something that we're going to be doing during the feedback process. Okay, good. Amazing. So see, so far you're going to be applying. So let's see. If you're there for classroom management, then you can use ICQs, right? Or CCQs, and then you have to avoid this. How to overcome tough situations? Yes, yes. Well, our first very tough situation actually is not judging and observing properly. Okay, so that is very, very tough on all of us. Beautiful. So to observe the lesson here, you have some recommendations. My recommendation number one will be stick to the plan. Okay, you plan together. You cannot change things in the very last minute. I know that sometimes things do not go according to plan, there in the lesson. So the changes that you can do are, those kind of changes in the lesson. But for example, let's say that you're doing simple present and suddenly you also included present progressive. So that kind of radical changes did not happen because then the first work, the work of planning, wouldn't actually be working. Okay, so once you are in the lesson, the observers are going to be there. You have to minimize side conversations during the lesson. You cannot be interacting with the teachers that are right there and the teachers that are there observing the lesson as well. They cannot be talking to each other. Yeah. So remember that you're in camouflage. You're a chameleon right now. So nobody can notice that you are there. Yeah. Remain in the class during the entire lesson. You cannot leave the lesson. The setting is very important. The flow is important. Yeah. Be careful of not blocking your students' view to the board or any of the areas that the teachers are writing or posting the materials to demonstrate the activity. So there, the space in the lesson, that is something that can be fixed by you. Well, this is something that I have listened in practicum with other teachers in our workshops, that because you have so many students in your classes, you don't move them. So can I know very quickly, how many students do you have per class, or an estimate? How many students do you have? 43, 36, okay. 25 to 35, 45, yeah. All right. 25, 38. Oof, a lot, a lot. So see, my profes, you are already warriors. If you get there in having a lesson with 40 students, that is already a lot. 30 students. Thank you, Joy. Okay, so I know that at the beginning it might be very difficult and it might provoke lots of noise, but I invite you to please try to group your students. You will realize that then it is easier to manage the class when they are in a small groups of four than having them sitting one back to the other. Okay. At the beginning, you will struggle until you set some rules. But again, your rules are important. I invite you to please, please group your students the same way that you are learning with other teachers, the same way that they learn from each other. This is part of the constructivist theory. And I really, really ask you to please delete that misconception from your brain and start, you know, try, but don't get tired after the first time that it goes wrong. Okay. So you have to try for several times. Okay. So this is for observers as well. You have to minimize the interactions with the students. Maybe they are your students in other classes, so you can like just be talking to them while the teacher is presenting, okay? Or you cannot refrain from teaching or assisting the students. Sometimes we can get desperate because the lesson is not going as planned or going well. So we want to help the teacher. So our job right there is to observe, to just be there taking notes. Okay. Sometimes occasional interaction is allowed within the teacher that is teaching the lesson and the observers, but this has to be done in a very discreet way. So, by now you have formed a team. You have a group that is planning together, and then you're observing the lesson. We have to be super respectful in this process, okay, of observing each other. Yeah. Perfect. As I said, if teachers cannot go to the class, then, you know, record your lesson. Okay. This is something that my student Heidi helped me doing. Okay. And this is an observation template. When we go to the lesson, it is very important that we keep a focus. Sometimes we are not there to focus on everything. We can have that on the suggestions, but it's very important that you have a focus. If the goal of your lesson plan was to correct classroom management, then your observation has to be done within the classroom management framework. Okay? If you agreed to observe on the strategies that you're implementing, again, so you want to focus on something in a specific. This is a very complete template. It has many questions and many interactions because you can take notes about behaviors, interactions, and responses, and then talk to each other. But previous this observation, you have to agree with each other. What are you going to observe? Okay, and how is that you're going to do so. So, what is important here? What is important in this observation? And what should I focus more closely? Yeah. There is a difference between description and reflection notes. The description will be literally the ones that are happening in the class. So, this happened with this student, this student reacted in certain ways. Then, towards that, you are allowed to do a reflection, an interpretation, an idea. Okay, maybe if we implement this other strategy, we can avoid this problem. Okay, if we reduce TTT, we could avoid this problem. But it's super relevant that you have an observation focus. Okay, now think about your teaching, your classes, okay? And things that you would like to improve on, okay? So tell me in the chat, I would like to be observed in this point in particular. For example, classroom management. In which topic specifically you would like to be observed? Okay, go ahead into the chat box. Sometimes it's difficult, especially if we come to the point that, no, I teach everything perfect. Okay, so if that is so, think, what do you want to improve? What is there to be improved? Think. Okay. Okay, once you're ready, go to the chat box. Oh, TTT. I have that problem in differentiating instruction here. Yes, sometimes it depends on the nature of your subject. Perfect, thank you. What else? What do you want to improve in your lesson? Something that you feel you need to fix. Oh, it's hard. Okay. Okay, methodologies. Giving clear instructions. ICQs. Beautiful, Javier. Good. How to provide respectful and honest feedback. Okay, honest feedback from your students. CCQs and ICQs. Oh, okay. You have to finish your lesson within the time frame. Okay. How can we use task-based learning? Perfect. The application of teaching techniques and strategies. As you see, if you're able to do so, you have to kiss yourself first, because this means that you're constantly reflecting on your teaching process. And if you do so, that is the first step to change, to adapt things. Amazing. Thank you so much. So fantastic. See, you have to let your colleagues know, look, I want to improve this. I want to improve classroom management. I'm going to be delivering this lesson, but my main objective is that classroom management is improved or time management is improved. Okay. With that, so your colleagues will observe that thing in particularly. As you can see, when we have a goal in a specific, then the observation stops being about the teacher, but is about something that is happening in the lesson. In this case, okay, the activities, the strategies, the classroom management, okay, because sometimes maybe I can have so many activities that my time management is not well. So your colleagues will help you to fix this situation. Fantastic. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Perfect. Once you do the observation and everything happens, then we are ready to feedback. And I have been deciding and choosing this method for a while now. Sometimes when we give feedback, we are not ready to receive feedback as well. So we're going to use the positive things and the things that we can grow. So instead that your feedback, words are like this went good and this went bad, we are going to use other language, glowing and growing. So you're going to tell the teacher the positive things that they did. Okay. But whenever you're giving feedback, here is my another favor. You cannot just say, oh, the class was really good. No, you have to be very specific in your feedback. Oh, the way that you treated your student was very good. You use these words, you use sweet words, you were positive reinforcement, you use this phrase in a specific, and I really like that. Okay, so whether for the glowing or for the growing, you have to be very specific. So in here, you are improving the TTT, right? So you have to let your friend know, okay, look, the TTT was still superior in this and in this activity. You explain yourself more. Instead, you could use more ICQs or more CCQs. So as you can see, even the feedback stage is an opportunity to grow, okay, to learn from each other. And if you start by doing so with your colleagues, with your friends, suddenly you will transmit this with your students. Human beings are really good in focusing on the bad, on the things that are going bad, on like, oh no, this is not going well. And we're super quick in just being negative. So here, lesson study is an invite for you to actually be positive on the things that you're doing correct, but also positive on the things that you can grow on. Okay, because if you actually are participating from lesson study, this already means that you want to grow. Okay, good, beautiful. So, benefits of lesson study for teachers. So, before you read, so think about it. You plan together, you work together, you reflect together, and you're able to give proper feedback to one each other. Okay, so what do you think you can bring as benefit for yourself? So, what will be benefits for teachers? Think about it. Okay. So go again to the chat box and tell me, okay, I think this could be one of the benefits of lesson study for me, because you have to adapt it to yourselves. Okay. I think about it. Mm, what can possibly lesson study bring to you? Okay. All right. Let me see. See, perfect. Perfect. Personal and professional development. Good. A successful lesson. Amazing. Thank you, Maria Jose. Thank you, Dylan. Fantastic. Indeed. So, some of the benefits for teachers is that first, it encourages teamwork, and then it strengthens collaboration and shared expertise with one another. Sometimes, because we are too busy in our personal lives in teaching, then we stop actually sharing time with other people. And then teaching sometimes become a solitary journey. You're alone in this process, and this shouldn't be the place to do so. So our profession, our jobs propose us to have friends, to have a community. So it will definitely strengthen collaboration. The moment that you all go to a round of lesson study and that you have observed each other, this nervousness, this feeling of insecurities, of like to feel uncomfortable when someone is observing, will be deleted little by little. Okay. It also enhances instructional strategies because it leads to a better teaching techniques. Sometimes we have done something for so long or teaching something in a specific way for so long that we forget to reflect if this is actually working or not. So definitely your techniques will be better. Okay. It also promotes a reflection teaching. So you will be the kind of teachers that are constantly asking yourselves, okay, what went well and what can be better in these lessons? And in here, you will help each other to be critical about your own practices. Okay, fantastic. And then you will delete these misconceptions that if I teach, I am perfect in my teaching. There is always a space for learning. So, main benefits of lesson study. All right. So, let's think. Now, this is for you. How do you think your students feel when you go super prepared and energetic to teach a lesson? So, any ideas? In one word, how do you think your students feel when you go super ready to teach this lesson? You have prepared everything, you have everything under control. So, what will be your students' perceptions towards your teaching? All right. Motivated, engage, appreciated, care. That's true. Inspire. They will feel great. As you can see, lesson study not only has benefits for the teachers, but it also benefits the students because, sweethearts, you're going to be a mirror for your students. Everything that you will be posting there, reflecting them, your students will value, and they will value a lot. They will notice that that you're ready there. I wouldn't say not even stricter or kinder to correct errors. You have to be honest. But to be honest, that doesn't mean to be rude. Your students and yourself has to learn how to receive and give feedback in a lovely way, you know? And because the first thing, your first job will be to generate good rapport with your students, to create this space in which they feel safe. Okay, so this is from your speech in first class. You know, whenever we give feedback to each other, this is just because we want you to learn. Yeah. My students do this in English 7, English C1, which is hard. So it's difficult to give feedback at the beginning, but then they start accepting. And that is true. Your students will feel motivated and eager to participate constantly. They will see that you are ready. So if you're honest with yourselves, you have to think how many times you have gone unprepared to a lesson and just have decided to follow your book. Okay? Because sometimes I understand time, life, pressure, stress, anxiety, and all the things that we all gone through actually impede us for planning a beautiful lesson. But our students shouldn't actually feel those consequences. Okay? Good. Um, so you see, in my point of view, this is the landscape. Everything is a matter of perception. So at the beginning, you feel uncomfortable with classroom observations. You're not willing to actually plan together. And, you know, this is something that teachers do. No, no, no. Yeah, this strategy is about planning. I don't want to know. But that is not our jobs. You know, we have done a commitment with our students, and it is our moral responsibility to plan our lessons and to go energetic. And the moment that you change this mindset, that you learn to plan and plan together because you have the support of your colleagues, then your students will immediately value this. And then they will remember you forever. I was in a motivation course just last week, and they touched these three topics in particularly. Everything in our life goes with focus, language, and physiology. If you go to your lesson and then you tell, okay, we're going to learn simple past, and the topic is difficult, you know, guys, the topic is difficult. So you have to pay attention because this is super, super difficult. And then you're already giving your students this barrier that it will be very hard to jump. Okay, so your words matter. The way you communicate with your student is important. Okay, then I have seen some other teachers. Okay, students, we are going to learn. This is easy. But your posture, your tone of voice, your language, your attitude does not match with your words. So, see, instead, again, of focusing on the negative, focus yourself on the good things. Focus on what can go right. and all the chances that you have there to learn. And then your language and your body has to actually reflect this in every single lesson. They need to see you energetic. They need to see you happy on the things that you're doing. And I wish and I always prayed that whenever you study something, you can then work in something that you're super passionate for. Because the moment that you're passionate about your job, then you don't have a job anymore. You have a hobby. And on top of that, you get paid for doing your job. So that is part of our mindset. Let's add some meaning to our life, okay? Let's see things in a different way. So I really invite you that whenever you're communicating with your colleagues, with your institution admin, with your students, the language that you're using is appropriate. And then you will see how life suddenly starts changing. I agree. Sometimes we can get corrupted by the system. The system overwhelms teachers constantly. They are constantly requesting for more work, for more effort without them giving actually something. But then our students shouldn't suffer the consequences. Okay. We are out there to transform education, to make learning happen in a beautiful way. So everything is a matter of conceptions. Okay. So here are some of the opportunities. These are real opportunities that we found in a research paper, and something that I wasn't expecting, and I am super happy and eager to share, is that my teachers, despite being of communities, far away communities, despite of only being the unique teacher in their high school, they had the willingness to collaborate. And I expect the same thing from you. They were open to teamwork and to share lesson planning. They were open to discussions, and that is something to be praised. Our English teaching community is fabulous. Okay, it actually promoted professional development engagement because teachers were interested in workshops, interested in learning, and then the moment that you start learning something new, you realize like, oh my gosh, there is so much more to learn. And I have said my students, the reason why I keep studying is because I have a responsibility with you. I don't study just for myself. I study because I need to be a better teacher for yourselves. And they are going to be future English teachers. So that is something that needs to change in our speech as well. Our teachers have the commitment to work more hours or beyond work hours. So, because now they created a team, a group, a network. So, actually planning together wasn't seen as a job, but as an opportunity to share with your colleagues, to strengthen their friendship, and to have better lessons. So the next day you go to your class and you go super prepared. So see, instead of being overwhelmed, carrying all your things in a bag, then you go there relaxed and calm because you have planned something. Teachers were super open to be observed and to give feedback. So I really trust our teaching community. They desire to improve. So instead of, not only they were nervous at the beginning, but they also have this in their heart that they wanted to improve. That's why they were open to have peer observations. That was fantastic. And finally, they were sharing their resources and their knowledge suddenly. So they were like, oh, I have this worksheet. Maybe this works for you. I have used this for simple present. This is very useful. So just having that kind of communication with the teachers is terrific. It's something that, a day come true, a dream. So you see, we have lots of student of benefits not only for teachers but also for students. The moment you improve your lesson effectiveness, then you ensure that the structure is engaging enough to receive beautiful classes. It increases the students' engagements in general because they will see in you the preparation. They will see that you care about your students. So they praise that a lot. And finally, it enhances student-teacher relationships. So in there, somebody asked me about feedback. This won't be a problem because they will start trusting the teacher. And then you will be able to give feedback to your student confidently and in a comfortable way. Okay, so parts of the benefits. As you see, this is the lesson study process. This is a flow, but this is a process that is constant, that is perseverant. Whenever you identify a teaching challenge, then okay, you go there and plan the lesson together with your class, with your colleagues, and then you go teach the lesson and observing a very important topic. But more important is sitting together with your colleagues and start doing this analysis and reflection. And even sometimes you will say, like, I tried to apply this, but I couldn't. So, what do you recommend? How can I do this or so? And then you will learn a lot from other people. Once this is ready, you refine the ideas, you share your insights, and you start the process all over again. I know that because of time management, you won't be able to do this in every single class. But if at least you could do this twice a month or once a month, this is already a change because this is like a routine. The moment you start reflecting about your teaching practice, suddenly you will do this unconsciously in every single lesson. So the process starts again. And whenever someone says, like, I want to observe you, then you will be open to do so. This requires practice and exercise, but you will reach the point in which somebody will actually want to observe you because they want to learn from you. And I remember our last, and this was the speech. Can I observe you because you're really good in this, and I want to learn from you. So classroom observation suddenly changed from being like, I'm going to be judged to, oh my gosh, my colleagues want to learn from me. And, that is something fantastic if you can reach. Okay. So, implementing lesson studying in your context, okay, in your real context. You told me how to start your lesson study group. So I will ask you again, please be the one that starts with the idea. Okay, so that invites them, that talks to people, that wants to carry. And what do you think if we, start doing so? Let's practice. This is going to be practice and error. So if you go with this speech, your colleagues will be willing to do so. Okay. You will create a structured lesson cycle, as you can see the flow, the process, so that you can establish clear timelines and clear roles for your performance. And then you go overcoming challenges. So, instead of saying to your students or to your colleagues, this is very difficult, you're going to say, this is challenging, but we're going to do it because we're capable of doing so. So, addressing potential obstacles such as constraints, the resistance to change. This is feasible if your words are aligned in a particular way. Okay. So please, I invite you to be super positive about this topic. Yeah. And these are some of the comments that I grabbed from my teachers. They were just discussing then in the planning stage. So Andrea was saying, like, to motivate students, when they complete a task, I give them winning cards or stars or popsicle sticks. So what do you think? And then they were starting reinforcing, the behaviors in a positive way. Then Luis was saying, this is real, in my class, I use points. For example, if they speak more, I give them extra points. So at the end of the term, they have extra points which increase their grades. So see, they also realize that they not only have differences, but they have lots of similarities. Yeah. Lucia was saying that when my students complete a task, I turn it into a competition. So I divide the class in groups and then they compete for extra points. You see, sometimes we share ideas, but sometimes we have even better ideas to make something work. So the thing was from going to points to a classroom healthy competition, which is fantastic during lesson study planning. Okay. So, how can lesson study fit in your teaching context? Do you think it's going to be real? Do you think it's feasible? Be positive about it. Okay. And let me know. Do you think it's actually going to work? I hope that once you finish this workshop, this webinar, you at least have in mind that it is possible to do a change, that you're willing to do a change, okay? That you want to try, but you have to be willing to try. Remember at the beginning with the detox? Well, so the detox of the negative things has to be constant and alive, okay? Thank you, amazing. We're about to finish. And to finish, this is something I do with my students sometimes. And I ask them, if you were a perfume, you know, what characteristics will you include in the bottle of this perfume so that when your students see you and smell because you're passing through, how do you want your students to remember? So think about it. If today you can fill your bottle of perfume with any characteristics, what would you include in here so that your students can remember you? Okay, go to the chat. I want to gossip this time. All right, let's see. What can you add? You can add anything, and it can be a lot of things, not only one. So think about it. All right, independence. Encouragement, fantastic. Add more, add more. This is your bottle of perfume. You want to smell in a particular way. Think on your favorite perfume. So you want your students to remember you in a particular way. What would you include in this bottle? You would include powerful. You'll be like leadership, sense of humor, which is very important in our classes, power, inspiration, fantastic. Add everything because this is your essence. This is how your students will see you for the rest of your life, you know, and be the kind of teacher that is remembered for the good reasons. Okay. Not for the bad reasons, because sometimes yes, you can add everything, add intelligence, add kindness, and add love, add independence, add power. What do you want to add in your battle? Okay. Whenever you are forgetting, what are you doing every day? Like if you're in the correct place, then think about your favorite perfume. When people smell at it, when your students perceive this, what is the sensation that they will have? Okay, that is true. So you want to be someone that is unforgettable, that was authentic. You want your students to remember you in a very kind and lovable way. So do this as a regular practice. I really invite you to do so. Okay. So to finish, this is the paper that we wrote together with a colleague about lesson study. If you want to read it, you can scan the paper and go through. So you will see that we explore different teachers in different scenarios. We went to their schools, we supported each other, and we, had this beautiful experience actually applying because lessons kind of want to, okay, you need to have this desire of having this in your life. All right. So that will be all. Thank you very much. If you have questions, I'm super open to questions.
Thank you so much, Gary. This bottle of perfume that you leave us here is like motivation and encouragement to apply this lesson study in our classes. Thank you so much for sharing your research, your experience, your professionalism with all of us. I really appreciate. I don't know if the teachers have any questions, but if not, I took a short screen of your QR code, so I will share with everyone in the ECUATESOL network that we have, so everyone can download your paper and
Thank
read
you.
it and apply it. No, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate your presentation. Thank you for collaborating with the Cotizo. I know you, and I know that you mentioned something really important is that we need to build this community of sharing, no, not being just the big or the excellent professional, but share our
Mhm.
expertise with everyone is the essence of being an excellent teacher. Thank you very much, dear Carrie. So,
Darsh,
Jackson,
thank you. Thank you,
everyone,
Dad.
thank you. Thank you very much. And just to finish today, please do not forget um, about our Equity Soul Network. So please visit our website so you can continue watching these excellent webinars. And the same thing, follow us in our Instagram account because we are posting all the time information about our new webinars and things that are coming in Equatiso organized. Please register as a member. The same thing, all members always receive the information about the upcoming events. And finally, if you can like scan this code as well, so you can be part of our equities on network in the WhatsApp group, so you can receive updated news all the time. Finally, please, this is our email. So if you have any questions, any suggestions, or if you want to ask something for our amazing presenters, you can always write to equitisol@gmail.com so we can pass these questions to our presenters so they can answer to you. And this is our next mini congress, our mini conference that we are offering. So on Saturday, March 29, from 9 o'clock in the morning to noon, we are going to have a mini congress organized and with the sponsor of the US Embassy and King University with the support of ECOTISOL, TISOL International, United University in Yachay. So it will start at 9 o'clock in the morning. We are going to have 9 different sessions and a keynote speaker presentation about different strategies and techniques, about flipped class, about gamification, about how to prepare lesson plans, effective lesson plans as well. So please, if you are interested, check in our website, check in our Instagram account, check in the WhatsApp group that we have for the link for the registration. This event will be previous registering, so please don't forget to register. So thank you again, dear Carrie. We hope to see you again pretty soon. With all my heart, I really appreciate all the job that you are doing in spreading this amazing teaching that you are with everyone here in the community of the English teacher. Thank you very much and hope to see you next time. Thanks, Katie, for being here as well with us. And thanks for everyone to attend in this webinar. I will see you on March 29th. So thank you very much and have a lovely night, everyone. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.